Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode, another edition of our MACAE, the Michigan Adult Community and Alternative Education Association's member profile series. I am Patrick Brown, the Executive Director of our MACAE Association. Just a reminder for you, if you're watching this, you can find this link on our website at www.macae.org or on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MACAE Today. We started this video series to highlight the work of our wonderful professionals within the MACAE Association. And so today, I am so happy to be joined by Linda Grindem from Birmingham Adult ESL. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you. Good morning to you, Patrick.
Happy to have you. So, Linda, I would like to welcome you, and you, I believe, are the first non-administrator or director, kind of, if you will, even though you wear that coordinator hat as well. But you have a strong instructional background as well. So I was just really excited that you accepted the invitation to be able to do this. So thank you for being a pioneer in your own way. So let's start from the very beginning. It's always a good place to start. You're at Birmingham. Let's talk about your educational pathway, your professional pathway. What led you to where you are today? And the reason why we asked this question is because I think many of us in the field currently maybe didn't recognize that this was an educational opportunity in our career that we would find ourselves in, right? Many of us have had lots of kind of lives, if you will, in education before we got to alternative community ed. So what's your story? What's your background? How did you get to where you are today?
Purely by accident, actually. So my professional background, I went to school at Michigan State. I'm a Spartan.
You are.
And I got a teaching degree, but my original degree was in child development and teaching. And at Michigan State at that time, it was a dual degree. You got a degree in child development, then you got an elementary education certificate with a ZA endorsement. So that is my degree. So I have wanted to be a teacher. Oh, probably since I was 10 years old. I played teacher all the time, and I was always the teacher, never the student. That was never going to happen, okay? I'm the oldest of 9 children, so I'm naturally very bossy. So I was always the teacher, always, always. And I just never, ever, ever thought about being anything else. So went to school, got a degree, got my first job teaching. So I have taught lower elementary school probably for 10 years prior to having my first child. I've taught kindergarten, first grade, second grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade. I kind of move around a lot. I like that. I get a little bit bored, so I move around. And so then I had my first child, and I did not want to let go of teaching. So I started to teach a 3-year-old preschool program in West Bloomfield. I loved it. I ended up with a second high-risk pregnancy, and I had to quit. Broke my heart. Well, 2 days after I quit, they called me up and said, Linda, could you teach an ESL class just for one semester? We are desperate. It started yesterday. And I said, what is ESL? And they said, English is a second language. And I said, I don't have a second language. They said, but you know English. I said, okay. And I'm like, okay. They said adults. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I'm like, adults? And they said, yes, just until we get someone. We promise we'll try. So I started doing that in West Bloomfield, a beginner ESL program, and the rest is history. I literally fell in love. You couldn't pay me money to go back to the elementary school classroom. It has been the joy of my life, and that was 37 years ago this month.
Wow.
Okay. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible.
Yes, that was 37. I went to the interview with a 10-day-old newborn baby in my arms because I had no one to watch him. They hired me on the spot because they were just desperate. So that's how it started. And I've taught every level of ESL, I was in West Bloomfield 19 years, and I ended up being the assistant to the coordinator there. And then I left. My husband got a job with Goodyear and we moved to Ohio. But as soon as I got there, I sought out an ESL job there. So I taught there for a couple years and then moved back and landed in Birmingham. So I would say to you, this is what I say to people. Like, do you like teaching adults? And this is my mantra. It is literally teacher heaven. Because I learn more from them than they learn from me. I get more from them than they get from me. I mean, truly, they're most of the time they're highly motivated. They are they need this. They have you know goals. They have a reason why everything happens, and you just get so much more intensely involved, and it has been really, really the joy of my life. So
Oh, that
that's
is
kind of how I got
one a
started.
wonderful story. That's so
Literally.
fantastic. Well, and a couple of things that stick out to me are that, so much of the instruction is, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, that you do is very foundational and giving, people, educational access at a very foundational level. And then once they can get those pieces in place, then they start scaffolding, right? And learning more.
Yeah.
And that education history that you had at the elementary level is probably very instrumental in being able to relate to, kind of that growth of mindset of a learner and
Well,
that
when you're
benefits.
teaching ESL, it's really foundational reading skills. It really is. I mean, that's where it is. You're teaching really somebody basically how to read and how to learn the language and the vocabulary. But on top of that, it may be more important or foundational is most of them come to a country and they're lonely. They're a little bit lost. They have culture shock. So you have all those pieces of the puzzles to put together. And it just makes for a wonderful journey for you and for them together.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about I'm just so awestruck by your story and your commitment as an educator. Tell us a little bit about Birmingham now. Tell us about your students, the class program that you have, offerings that you have. Tell us a little bit about the landscape.
Okay, I would say I am very fortunate because Birmingham is a very upper middle class community, but we are very close to the big three. So what I have been told over the years is when people are ready to relocate here to work for the big three or suppliers, they are told about Birmingham because it is close to all those offices in Troy and Auburn Hills and all that. And also it's a walkable community like they're used to in other parts of the world. So people are drawn, that kind of expat is drawn to this community for that reason. The schools are excellent for their children. We have, there's international baccalaureates around. We have the International Academy. So it is an easy draw for very good, solid ESL families. So with that being said, we do not have a need. We don't have a high school completion program. We don't have adult basic ed. We don't have GED programs. There's really not a need in this immediate community. But I will tell you now, I've been doing this again for 36 years. I've watched all the programs around me close. I mean, all around me have closed in the last 10 years. So we are really drawing from a much larger community now. So that's kind of, I've seen the program, it's grown. I came to Birmingham about 16 years ago. We had, maybe 15 students, and now we serviced, before the pandemic, closer to 100. We're getting back there again. That has changed everything. But I think this year we'll probably service about 85. So it's a smaller program, but very, very important to the community and to the draw of the community.
Absolutely. And part of doing this series, I was sharing with you, is to highlight that our local communities in many spaces have programs like this. And when I go out and have conversations statewide, it's amazing some of our community members that aren't aware that there are these programs that are available in local areas. And so part of this too is just saying, even in Birmingham, but in the surrounding areas and communities, this is a gem. This really is a space where someone who's interested could come and find resources.
Well, Patrick, I can't even tell you, even this year, I can't tell you how many times someone has come to me and, found us, and they're registering with tears in their eyes saying, like, I wish I had known that you existed, because I have been so lonely and so isolated. I don't even know where to start, with tears rolling down their eyes, And I have a student right now that just joined us about 6 months ago that said the same thing. So it is important for people to know that we're here for their social emotional well-being as well as their language needs.
Can you talk a little bit about the levels of instruction you have, and then maybe some of the goals that your learners come to your program with, of why they want to learn English? Why, I mean, we in the field understand and know that, but I think it might be important to share out for our listening audience too.
We have 3 levels of English: a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced program. I would say our beginner program is the smallest, just because of the nature of the community. And it works very well. People, can start at one level and they will stay with us for a few years and move through all that. There are 3 goals, I think. Some people do not have the paperwork and they cannot work. So for them, it is a social piece, but we are helping them navigate the schools for their children. We talk about, sometimes we help with writing a note to the teacher or an email to the teacher, and the different philosophy of American education. Sometimes they are just like deer in a headlight. It's totally different from what they experience in other parts of the world. Then there's the student who can work and really wants to get a job, but doesn't feel like their English is good enough. So we are really helping facilitate, those kind of language experiences and that kind of vocabulary, and dealing with the public or doing an interview. And then we have the students who are highly motivated, usually at our advanced level. I had a student email me this morning, and she is a low intermediate. She just registered for a certificate program at OCC. And she was like, I'm so sad, Linda, I won't be able to come. And I'm like, congratulations to you. That just makes my day. So they really want to get out there. They want to better themselves. And we have people that go to, advanced education. I've had people, I have one who actually shadowed the principal of our schools and was going into educational administration. I have a woman who just took a job as a project manager for the new name of Chrysler, whatever it is. And so we have the whole gamut.
Can you talk a little bit about the demographics of your learners and what draws them? What parts of the world are they coming from?
Okay. I would say we service people from every part of the world. We do not have a significant demographic. In any given day, when I stand in front of students, I would say there's an average of 13 different countries represented, because of the way this community is. We don't have one demographic. I mean, I can tell you from the Democratic Republic of the Congo to Yemen. Okay. It is, I have one person from Yemen, person from the Congo. It's crazy, but it's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing to see that in one space, with how tumultuous the news can be and the world news. That's so beautiful and wonderful that there's a space there in Birmingham for people of all different creeds and ethnicities and races to come together
And I
and learn.
think that's why for my program and for my philosophy of ESL, I always say to them, the most important thing I can give you is confidence in being somewhere else. And to me, the most important piece of ESL, this is my personal take, is it's not grammar, it is pronunciation, because these people have to understand each other. And I don't have just one language problem. You know, I have like 13 language problems. So my forte is, and my emphasis is always pronunciation.
Wonderful. So you talked a little bit about your kind of philosophy that you share with your students. You have in your career held many hats and taken on many roles, ebbs and flows and changes of each year brings, you know, new opportunities and also some challenges. But I've known you for a long time and always appreciated your experience, the ability to teach and try new things. What for you stands out as something that has kept you going? Do you have like a mantra, or is there like a saying or a quote or anything that just keeps you going? Because you have always been, I've recognized you as a professional who always keeps the interests of her learners at the forefront of what she does. And wherever that leads you, you've always ebbed and flowed with that. But is there something that kind of carries you forward like that?
You know, I like to, the first thing I would say is I on my wall in my classroom, and a student actually drew it for me. It's a picture of Ratatouille, you know, from the movie Ratatouille, when he says, if you love what you do, if you love what you do, you're not working. And that is really my mantra. I have, as my children will say, I have 4 children, and they always, you know, they're always like, oh, I have to go to work today. And I'm always like, oh, I have to go to work today. And my oldest daughter says, you know, Mom, you're really annoying. But I would say to you, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I have never, ever, I've been teaching since 1975, and I have never, ever once wished I had ever done anything else. You know, I've never cared about the money. I've never cared about the hours, and that is true. So I would say that I love what I do, so I don't feel like it's work. So that's my first motto. And my second motto is, I have been a coordinator, semi-administrator for a lot of years now, and I've done a lot of hiring and training of teachers. That's probably been my main role for the last, you know, 15 years. But I always still manage to get in the classroom because that's my first love. I mean, I taught yesterday, it was my first love. I have a class on Friday, it's my first love. But I think when you expect the best of people and you allow them to be themselves and to kind of have that shine through, they almost always rise to the occasion. And I believe that about all the teachers I have worked with over the years and have hired or trained or helped mentor them. That is true. They don't have to be me. They have to be themselves. And I'd say that 99% of the time they rise to the occasion. So I let that kind of happen.
That's wonderful. That's so inspiring, just as I think for people listening and even those of us in the field, right, that sometimes don't get that recognition or maybe need that little encouragement.
Yeah.
That's so inspiring. So thank you for sharing that.
You're
So
welcome.
when you look back at your career, you've had lots of and your career's still going. We're not saying that it's it's still going.
At some point, they're gonna throw me out, you know. Oh, God.
I always like you know, even years, or I like, you know, increments of 5. So you said you started in 1975. So you at least have to go to 2025.
I know, that's my goal, Patrick. That is absolutely my goal. My goal is to do 50 years. That's my goal.
That's wonderful.
It's been wonderful in that it's also been not always full time. It's been part time. It's really worked well for me as a person, as a mom. So it's been literally teacher heaven is all I can say to you.
What are some of the moments that stand out? Certainly, I know that probably there are some with your students that stand out as really life-changing or inspiring. I mean, just on a daily basis, I'm sure. But are there any other moments as well? I mean, you can certainly share a student story, but any other things that stand out as significant that are really high points for you?
I think one of the high points, and Patrick, I can't even tell you when it was. It was probably, oh, 20 years ago now. And I think there was at that time an Adult Education Teacher of the Year award or something like that. And I did get that award. And that was a highlight. You know, I was in the local newspaper and I got a big plaque. And not that that was the most important thing, but the fact that I got someone to say, well done for something that I loved. And it was a little shot in the arm to just keep going and do better and make a difference. You know, it wasn't so much about me. It was just that I made a difference and somebody recognized that. So it kind of gave me the mojo to make more of a difference. So I would say that was a highlight. And I think for me, the other highlights are the little moments in big moments in my students' lives. For instance, I remember about 5 years ago, a group of Syrian refugees, a family of 5, so little English, it was frightening, stood outside my door with passports in their hand, and they just handed me their passports. This is when the whole Syrian war was happening, the refugees were coming. I was totally overwhelmed, not prepared. We, my staff, we did everything we could to develop a class for them. We helped them find cars. And I mean, I can't even tell you, we were on a mission, and that was lovely. They're now in a different school district. The girls are progressing, and that was a lovely moment that we could rally at that time in history. It's like we were a part of history, kind of, you know. So that was those kind of moments. Another one, I remember a student a couple years ago was in a very toxic domestic violence situation. And I was the only person she felt safe enough to tell. And that was a saga that went on an entire school year. She is now a substitute teacher in school districts. She is free of this situation. And I'm not saying it was my doing, it was her strength, but I helped her navigate the system, you know. So I think those kind of moments, I'm trying to think of okay, this is a highlight. I tell this story all the time. This goes back 30 years when Saddam Hussein was in power and the Chaldeans all came to Detroit. A young girl sat in my class. She was 17 years old, married to a 30-year-old, and knew no English. It was arranged marriage. And anyway, a long story short, she came to me with a very serious problem within the family. And it was way beyond me, and I didn't even understand the culture. So I contacted the local Catholic priest where she would be going, and she asked me to drive her somewhere, and I drove her there, and they took care of it. And I ran into her about 5 years or so later, and she had her children with her, and she said, "Linda, these are your babies. It's because of you that I was able to get past what I got past. And these are your babies." And I was in the middle of a grocery store. And those moments sometimes we don't know the small things that we do in life. We don't know how they touch people. And people don't know how they touch me until sometimes they'll never know. But it's a reminder of how we conduct ourselves each and every day with our students and with people, because you never know. I did not know I made that big of an impact, and that was a powerful moment.
Thank you for sharing that. That's just, all of those are beautiful stories. And I know that so many educators that are listening probably have similar moments and
Absolutely.
touch points and
Absolutely.
stories. So thank you for sharing those. So I'll harken back to something that you said earlier, a quote from Ratatouille. We love what you do, Linda. So you keep working and enjoying that work, because you're doing wonderful things and you're making such an impact. And it would be interesting to go back. Maybe we'll follow up. It'd be interesting to see how many student lives you've touched. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to keep track of that, but it's probably thousands,
Oh, thousands. Yeah.
throughout your career. So thank you for the wonderful professional you are and the colleague that you are, and for being a wonderful asset to Birmingham Adult ESL, and really Southeast Michigan ESL, really, and all the different places that you work. So thank you, Linda.
And thank you, Patrick, likewise, for what you do in making everyone just help moving us along in this journey. And I really, really thank you for what you do. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you all for listening. We will be back soon with another episode. Again, you can see Linda's story on our website, as well as on our social media platforms at MACAE Today. We will talk to you very soon. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.